Just a short overview. I will introduce you to the numbers of cancer in Norway, and a short introduction to the way we are organized and also organizing treatment with immunotherapy. I will shortly mention our studies and, of course, focus on the further challenges. To our international speakers, we are only 5.2 million people in Norway, so we are not that many. And 32,592 people were diagnosed with cancer in 2015. When it comes to immunotherapy patients, there were 2,001 melanomas, 3,035 lung cancers. The non-small cellular, unfortunately, I don't have the precise number, it's the lung numbers altogether. For the renal cell carcinomas, it was 874. Compared this to the other big groups, like prostate and breast, which are bigger groups, but it's a substantial number. When it comes to mortality, it was over 10,000 people that died from cancer. These are the numbers for 2014, and it was 322 melanomas, and all these patients are actually targets for immunotherapy. For lung, it was 2,158, and we think it's about around 1,500 that are targets for immunotherapy. And for renal cancer, it's 285. And of course, immunotherapy means a lot for these patients. I'm sorry for the quality of the slide, but if you can follow me, lung cancer is this number. It's showing the numbers for cancer development from the 50s up until today. And this is for lung, and you see for the males it's flattening, luckily it's flattening out now, but the incidence is still high. For the women, the lung cancer is increasing, and when it comes to melanoma, it has been steadily increasing from the 50s, both for males and for females. This is the stuff we are talking about that change our everyday life, when it comes to melanoma at least. First we had Yervoy with ipilimumab, and then the two drugs with PD-1 inhibitors, Keytruda and Opdivo. Just to give you a short overview, I know you have seen it from the international aspect before, but this is from the Norwegian timeline. As mentioned earlier in the earlier lectures, immunotherapy is actually not new. We had actually tumor-specific antibodies in the 70s, and Rosenberg did fabulous clinical trials with adaptive immunotherapy with quite good results. We got adjuvant interferon alpha in the 90s, and interleukin-2 that was actually approved by FDA in 98 for both renal cell carcinoma and melanoma. And we did trials at our center with interleukin-2, but it was a terrible drug because a lot of the patients had to go to the intensive care unit. And it was not a big success to treat in everyday life. Then finally we got the first good results when ipilimumab came into CTLA-4 and later the PD-1. From 2013 we have been working with combinations therapy of PD-1 inhibitors and ipilimumab. And actually today we are talking about triple combinations also with targeted therapy when it comes to melanoma, and different combination, as mentioned in the earlier speak, with a lot of immune checkpoints inhibitors that are actually in clinical trial. What is a problem in Norway is the reimbursement, because in Norway we have mainly a governmental healthcare. We have very few private hospitals here in Oslo. We have one. There's one in Stavanger, and you have options, smaller options other places. But it's mainly cancer treatment is a governmental issue. And you are dependent on the reimbursement. So actually with ipilimumab was never reimbursed. We just got a governmental study, phase 4 study, cost-benefit study in 2012. And actually the PD-1 inhibitors was reimbursed as late as November 2015 for melanoma. And when it came to lung cancer, it was only reimbursed for second line and with PD-L1 positive lung cancer it was in 2016 finally, and for renal cell carcinoma it was now in February 2007. So the good news is that it seems cost benefit for the ipi-nivo combination, and they will probably say yes this month, but I'm not sure. So it's a little issue here in Norway to actually get the drugs, because they are horrible expensive. Patients could get it at this private alternative hospital, but it's like you have to sell your house or get in serious debt. Just a short overview of how we treat melanoma in Norway. For the BRAF positive patients, we have both first line is PD-1 inhibitor, then we have the targeted therapies. We always look for patients for new studies, new combinations. We're doing new immune combinations at the time. And we still have the chemotherapy, but it's very little used nowadays. Second line, it depends on what you have got earlier. Here we also look for new studies, and you get, if you had PD-1 inhibitor first, you can have ipilimumab, or if you have BRAF positive, you can have targeted therapy. So it's the other way around. For the BRAF wild type, we don't have many choices. It's usually PD-1 inhibitor. For patients who, of some reason, can't get immunotherapy, it's chemotherapy, and we always try to get them to join new studies. We still have ipi as a second-line option, but you have to have some kind of response to the PD-1 inhibitor as first. When we started with immunotherapy and this phase 4 governmental study, it was the big 5 university hospitals in Oslo, Bergen, Trondheim, Stavanger, and Tromsø, and 3 hospitals that was very interested in immunotherapy that joined this network in the EP4 study, and got the experience of treating these melanomas and also taking care of the side effects. Nowadays, the PD-1 they are treated in all the small local hospitals, and actually that's a big challenge for us, because PD-1 inhibitor is quite a nice drug. It's very little problems actually, but you get them, and you need to know how to treat the side effects, even in the small hospitals, and even if the frequencies are much lower. So that's quite a challenge, because usually in like 85% of the patients you go well, but you have the last 10-15% that you have to be aware of. So this is a little overview. You're not supposed to read all this. It's just an overview of the studies we've joined since 2006. I started at our clinical trial unit in 2007. And I was at the interview for the job, actually my boss and some of the other doctors had to run to the ER because they had one of the first patients in the 008 study, and he was at the intensive care unit. And he had like pneumonitis, nephritis, hepatitis, and they wondered also if there was something with thyroiditis, but it wasn't. But he had three types of different symptoms, and he spent like 8 weeks in the hospital. I think 3 of them was at the intensive care unit, but afterwards he lived for 2 years and in very good health. He actually died of a bleeding of one of his metastases, but it was 2.5 years later. So then I was wondering, what are we doing here? And we had serious side effects of some of the earlier phase 2 studies, but actually these 3 patients lived for many years. They almost reached 10 years. It was 2 elderly ladies who died of quite other reasons. They almost lived here 10 years, and with no disease left. So it was fascinating to start with this immunotherapy, and you had to learn a lot about handling side effects. And when it comes, we are also treating a lot with nivolumab in different studies, also with pembrolizumab, and also in different combinations, and now we are working on new combinations. And also to mention, at our hospitals, we work a lot with immunotherapy, especially PD-1 inhibitors, and now also in combinations, both for non-small cell lung cancer, for renal cell carcinoma, for the head and neck cancers. Hodgkin lymphoma had excellent results, as you know. ovarian cancer, and also glioblastoma. What was the challenges when we started treating with immunotherapy? I think it was actually to expect the side effects, and also to look for, as mentioned, you can have side effects in any organ, and also look for the usual side effects, and learn how to treat them, and to cooperate with other departments. We are actually very dependent on our endocrinologists, and also to gastroenterologists, our lung doctors, and also with the lab, with the rheumatologist. So to have a network with good co-workers is essential, so you don't have to wait like 3 months to get something examined. It was also very hard work to make the patients, as mentioned, understand that their best interest is to report these side effects, especially in studies. They were very afraid to lose their place in the study. So we had to actually make question lists to ask for everything, to make them sometimes to make them report it. Close follow-up is essential. We have study nurses calling the patients. And most of all nowadays, it's to use high enough doses of steroids long enough, and also be quick enough to use when you have a steroid refractory disease. Change it to infliximab and tacrolimus and other options you have. And not to wait for weeks and months to change, because, as mentioned, you have to push the brake when to be able to treat the patient, and maybe also to start treatment again, if you're handling it right. What we have seen at our center is, with the ipilimumab, it was colitis and hypophysitis that was the main problems. Now with the PD-1 inhibitors, I think it's the pneumonitis that we see very often. Of course, we see the skin side effects with some itching and some dermatitis, but it's really not a big issue. We also see a lot of thyroiditis and not so much hypophysitis on the PD-1 inhibitors. We see some hepatitis, nephritis, and most of all fatigue. I think almost all our patients have some degree of fatigue. It might be less or it may be more. But we have to be aware, as mentioned, the myocarditis, the meningitis. We have aseptic meningitis reported on the PD-1 inhibitors. And also, you have to be aware of these very seldom diseases that can be very serious, like Guillain-Barré, and as mentioned, myasthenia gravis, and other neurologic symptoms. So, changes today is all this discussion about the PD-1 expression testing. For melanoma, we don't test. For lung, they have to test to be able to treat the patients. It's no requirement for the renal cell carcinoma at the moment, but we desperately need biomarkers. And we also need to find out about the immune checkpoint inhibitors and combinations, because there are so many agents. I think it will take some time. And you have also now starting combination with targeted therapies, like you put PD-1 inhibitor on the BRAF and MEK inhibitors, and you also put it on other inhibitors, like AXL inhibitor. And what is the optimal monitoring? We don't know. There are also issues immunologically. What about cold tumors? Can you make cold tumors hot and to actually get the immunotherapy working? We have also a discussion about immune adjuvant treatment, because the ipilimumab showed some effect, but it's so toxic, at least the dose that was used in the adjuvant study, that we don't know how to proceed. So it's not in use. EMA hasn't approved it, and then the Norwegian Medicinal Agency haven't approved it. So we are still waiting what will happen with the ipilimumab. And we are waiting for the results for adjuvant treatments for PD-1 inhibitor. And not to forget, we are talking a lot about immune checkpoint inhibitors, but there's other form for immunotherapy. I know the Danish have been loving to use interleukin-2, and they still have it in some like second and third line. Adoptive cell therapy is still very useful, but it's very resource consuming. And we have these local therapies like the TVAC and also Norwegian comparison LTX 315 that you put actually injected into the tumor cell and get immune responses. And these therapies are now combined with PD-1 inhibitors. And you have like also very advanced therapies with CAR T cell therapy. That's ongoing primarily for leukemia at our center. So I would just round up with two to illustrate how we've been working with immunotherapy here in Norway, two patient cases. One from the early days and one from the later days. Patient one was a very young male. He had several excisions of a tumor on his back. It was actually never sent to immunohistochemistry, so it was not known as a melanoma. It was probably a melanotic melanoma because he had a new recurrence 2 years from the first one, 2 years after the first one, and then it was recognized as a melanotic melanoma. Further, a year later, he had metastasis to his right axilla, and unfortunately, in a year later, in 2010, he had multiple recurrences in his axilla and had new surgery. But the disease developed, and in 2011, he had more lung metastasis and also recurrences in the scar in the back. In that days, we gave him radiotherapy and surgery because that's what we had. And in January 2010, he had new tumors in the lung and right axilla. He had a BRAF negative disease. Ipilimumab had at that time Norin reimbursement, and we had only chemotherapy. What we ended up was actually that luckily we got the study that we could include him in, EP study with 3 mg versus 10 mg. He just had one course, but he gets serious, he get first grade 1 diarrhea. He got a second course, but got continued diarrhea. And at coloscopy, he showed colitis. But it progressed and it developed to a grade 3 diarrhea, and he had to be hospitalized for flu treatment. We treated him quite aggressively with infliximab and prednisolone tapering and TPN, and slowly he got better. But he had complications with perianal abscess and gastric ulcer, and he had a very, very long prednisolone taper. Unfortunately, he progressed a few months later at week 12 after starting ipilimumab with bone metastasis, increasing metastasis in the lung and skin. And this is just to show you how, because he had stomach ache, we did the CT scan, and actually you can see a colitis in the CT scan. And then you had the effect of steroid taper and infliximab, and then it was gone. So you see the white areas here, it's edema in the colon. And here you see after 12 weeks, it's gone. And he got radiotherapy for his bone metastasis, and we also tried to give stereotactic radiotherapy to his liver metastasis, and some excision of those subcutaneous tumor that bothered him, but unfortunately he progressed, and he was stable for a short while, but unfortunately had new metastasis in 2012 in November, and progressing everywhere. Actually then we tried a DC vaccine and chemotherapy because it was desperation. Really, it was a very young patient. And actually he first got better, he got shrinking tumors, he could walk better, some of the subcutaneous tumors actually disappeared, and he had no pain, he was in good condition. And this lasted for about 6 months. Then he got new progressing disease. It was still BRAF negative, we tested it just to be sure. He started with PD-1 inhibitor, but then he didn't respond and died shortly afterwards. But it's very interesting, he had 6 months here with totally stable disease, and actually felt better, and some of the tumors were shrinking on DC vaccine and chemotherapy. Is this effect of an earlier immunotherapy? I don't know, that's maybe something we can discuss. Then I have another patient on combination therapy. This was a 64-year-old lady. She had surgery for her malignant melanoma in February 2013. it was quite thick melanoma with high risk for metastasis. She had her re-excision, but as may be expected due to this very breast level deep melanoma, she had already in November 2013 multiple metastases to skin and lymph node on the neck. It wasn't possible to do surgery, so she started with immunotherapy in the 067 study. It was combination therapy with ipilimumab and nivolumab, and we know now she got the combination. She had the first course in January 2014, and already after 14 days after her first course, she had symptoms of hyperthyroidosis. And she had high anti-TPO titer, and it was diagnosed actually as thyroiditis. And she had symptomatic treatment with beta blocker, and we just decided her values were not that high, so we decided just to follow her and maybe do substitution with Levaxine later. And she skipped, of course, the second course, and the theory seemed okay, and she was happy about it, and she felt well. And at 12th of February, she got a new course 6 weeks after the first one. And next 4 days after the second course, she doesn't feel well. She had nausea. She was very tired. Wasn't very hungry. And on CT scan on the 26th of February, she had colitis. You see edema in the colon wall. It was thickened. And but she had no diarrhea, so we started very carefully with the prednisolone. It's a low dose, actually 40 milligram. But then she was hospitalized not a few days after with colitis. It was actually toxic megacolon and distended small bowels. So here you see the pictures. It wasn't very nice. She had massive stomach retention. She was conservative treatment at the beginning with ventricular tube and correction of the electrolytes and bowel arrest. And she had to get a central access, she got a CVK. But when they put it in, she got a pneumothorax, so it was complicated, and she needed a chest tube. And her general condition got quite worse. And actually, on the 8th of March, just a few days later, she needed respiration support, so she was in the intensive care unit. And what was diagnosed with bilateral lung embolias. She also had lung infiltrations, which was question about pneumonitis or pneumonia. She was covered with both antibiotics because the CRP was over 300. Here you see the pictures. And they choose to observe the bowels at first, but and we had discussions with the surgeons about using the steroids. But in the end, she didn't get better. So 2 days later, we finally got them persuaded at the intensive care unit to start with methylprednisolone intravenously on ×2. She had to be put on ventilator, and she had to be removed to Rikshospitalet, to special care unit, where they could take better care for her than just at the cancer hospital. And she had an acute bowel perforation at the 13th of March, and then they had to operate and do an ileostomy. And she had multiple melanoma suspect lesions in her bowel, but we also saw multiple spots with inflammation, ulceration, and perforation. So this was very serious. And when she was in hospital, they suspected kidney failure because her creatinine levels was increasing. The dialysis was discussed, but decided to treat conservatively in the end. And she had 20 days in intensive care unit before she could go to regular hospital care unit. Then she had episodes with low hemoglobin, and we didn't know where she was. It was suspected bleeding. But she got better and was finally discharged to rehabilitation, but had to be re-hospitalized because of low hemoglobin again. And she had a slow taper with steroids and was finished in the beginning of June. She was then discharged to home, and she had only transfusion for this episode with hemoglobin. Then she had increasing creatinine again, and the question was autoimmune nephritis. But actually it was pre-renal kidney failure. She had fluid loss due to the ileostomy and short bowel syndrome. And it was quite a hot summer, so she had to be very careful with hydration. Finally, she got better, and she had a reoperation and put the stomia back, so she got back normalized her bowel function and didn't have to use stomy. And now it's over 3 years now, and she's quite well. She has no whatsoever tumors left, and she had quite extensive disease. But she was spent 21 days in an intensive care unit and 3 months altogether in hospital. So it's quite complicated. So this is our unit. We are taking care of phase 1 and phase 2 studies at our hospital. So I would just say thank you, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Do you see the side effects more in the responders, or is it equally in the responders and non-responders?
Some of those we had struggled most with had also good responses, but we had also some patients that had serious side effects and didn't respond.
But you don't have any data?
So I can't say for sure. It's not consequent really. But some of those that we have tremendous responses and live for quite a long time are those that have side effects as well.
So there was some early data to suggest that from the NIH, where those folks who had an autoimmune breakthrough toxicity in melanoma had a response of about 35% compared to those who did not have an autoimmune toxicity where it was 5 to 7%. But when the phase 3 study happened, that did not show that.
Oscar?
I wonder about the autoimmune predisposition of these patients, both concerning endocrinological, but also other autoimmune diseases, which many of these are. Is there any predisposition in these patients? Are there any data about this, or is it just a random affection with the side effects?
The patients in our studies, they are usually excluded when they have some predisposition or have earlier known side effects. But we don't screen specifically for autoimmune diseases. So if they pass our screening procedures, they are included in our studies. But it has been shown, and some numbers from ASCO last year, that actually you can treat also patients with like autoimmune diseases, colitis and arthritis. And I think the number was you can get a flare of worsening about 50% of the patients, but it can also go quite well.
I will come to that later
in
my talk.
Yeah. So actually, what we do nowadays is actually when patients are like on series like chemotherapy, like methotrexate and TNF alpha inhibitors and so on, then we don't want to treat them. But if they are in a stable period of their disease, and then we discuss quite thoroughly with them that their risk are about 50% to get worse. But usually you stand with your back against the wall. What are you going to give them? And they usually take the risk. It's not many patients. I think Kari and Anna can maybe comment on that.
I don't have a number, but not so many.
Not so many, yeah. But it's an ongoing discussion, but I think if they are in a stable situation, they should be treated. But on these patients with very serious side effect, we have no information whatsoever that they had something predisposing factors. Okay, everybody's tired now. Thank you.